Hello and welcome to NDTV 24/7. I'm Rohit Wellington. Let's begin with our top story. Prime Minister Modi met with visiting Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov this evening and said that India is ready to contribute in any way to peace efforts. Amid international pressure on India to take a stand against Russia's Ukraine invasion, Prime Minister Modi and Russian Foreign Minister met for about 40 minutes. The question is India offering itself as a mediator? Vishnu Shaw has more.
Now, Mr. Lavrov, who met Prime Minister Modi, and you can see these pictures here, after a personal request, was clearly accorded very special treatment. Remember, China's foreign minister, the British foreign secretary, in other words, their foreign minister, the Mexican foreign minister, among others, were all here recently. They did not meet the Prime Minister. Significantly, in a statement, the Prime Minister has said, the Prime Minister reiterates his call for an early cessation of violence and has conveyed India's readiness to contribute in any way to the peace effort. So does that potentially mean that India is willing to mediate in the crisis? In fact, we'll talk about that in a few moments. So let's break up the key details of the visit of Mr. Lavrov into three key parts. How Russia sees India as a partner on economic ties between the two countries and on the war in Ukraine, which Russia calls a special military operation. Now, Mr. Lavrov has said that Indian foreign policy is characterized by independence and legitimate national interests. He said that he cannot imagine India taking a stance because it was under pressure from the West.
I have no doubt that a way would be out to bypass the artificial impediments which illegal unilateral sanctions by the West created. This relates also to the area of military technical cooperation. As regards, I mentioned about oil supplies and supplies of high technology. If India wants to buy anything from us, we are ready to discuss and to reach mutually acceptable forms of cooperation.
Interestingly, Mr. Lavrov didn't rule out a role for India as a mediator in the conflict with Ukraine. Now, 2 days ago, in an interview to NDTV, Ukraine's Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba welcomed a role for Mr. Modi. Today, Mr. Lavrov, the Russian minister, said that India is a serious country. It can support a peace process, a responsibility which, he says, has been ignored by the West.
India is an important and serious country, and it is not. And if India sees that to play that role, which provides resolution of the problem, then problem in this present condition, India as our common partner. We are for the security guarantee being offered by Ukraine. When West has ignored its responsibilities, and if India is with its position of just and rational and a rational approach towards international problems, then it can support such process.
On the war itself, Mr. Lavrov said Russia could not accept Ukraine being militarily propped up by the West. Russia's goal was to reduce, he said, Kiev's military capacity, and that Russia is not targeting civilians, only military facilities. That really begs the question, how have cities like Mariupol been destroyed? But on high-tech transfers to India, Mr. Lavrov said Russia is willing to export all items to India, and that both governments were working out a system through which rupee-ruble dealings were being strengthened. Now, this is because bank transfers have been impacted because of the sanctions, something Mr. Lavrov referred to as an artificial impediment.
Well, as regards using ruble and rupee in our financial trade dealings, I would recall that many years ago we started moving in our relations with India, with China, and with many other countries from using dollar and euros to more and more use of national currencies. Under these circumstances, this trend, I believe, will be intensified, which is natural and obvious. we will be ready to supply to India any goods which India wants to buy.
Now, India, for its part, emphasized the importance of a cessation of violence and ending hostilities in Ukraine. This was made mention of by the Foreign Minister earlier in the day in his statement. The MEA said, the External Affairs Ministry, differences and disputes should be resolved through dialogue and diplomacy and by respect for international law, the UN Charter, sovereignty and territorial integrity of states. Now, the visit of the Russian foreign minister comes at a time when New Delhi is under intense pressure from the West to speak out against Russia, something New Delhi has refused to do. Consider this, the number of high-level visits over just the last 2 days and phone calls from senior leaders, truly unprecedented. On the 31st of March, that's yesterday, the British Foreign Secretary, in other words, the British Foreign Minister, Liz Truss, their foreign minister, she was here. As was Dalip Singh, the US Deputy National Security Advisor, the man behind the Russia sanctions, who said don't expect Russia to back India the next time China makes incursions. The Foreign Policy Advisor to the Netherlands, Prime Minister, was also here. There was a call between Foreign Secretary Jaishankar and the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken. The German Security and Foreign Policy Advisor was here as well. All of this in just the last 48 hours. So India making it clear that despite this Western pressure, no Western pressure, we will work to protect our own interests.
To Sri Lanka now, where anger is boiling over amid spiraling economic crisis. On Friday, stones were pelted by angry protesters at the house of mayor in Moratuwa. Protesters were demanding power. They've been facing long hours of power cuts. On Thursday night, protesters surrounded President's house. There's no diesel, no power, no medicines, and people are angry. NDTV Srija reports from Ground Zero.
NDTV is here reporting from the epicenter of the Sri Lankan crisis. Falling off the bus, the police bus. Now that is the particular stretch of road. Record it! What? Don't cut it!
Someone came and attacking me.
People have tried to push through the barricades. Protesters clash with police. A bus torched.
මම රෝගී මගේ බෙහෙත් තියෙනවා ඉස්පෙට්ටි ඒකේ කූල් එකේ තියෙන්න ඕනේ. ඉතින් ඒව සැර බාල වෙන්නත් පුළුවන් මොනවා වෙයිද දන්නේ නැහැ. ඒකක් ඉතින් ඊයේ රැන හුවා දුක් විඳ. මේ අපේ පුංචි ගෙවල්නේ රස්නේ මදුරු ඉතින් ඕක කරදරේ තමයි තියෙන්නේ.
From this morning, a string of visitors at the President's residence. From Member of the Parliament, Johnston Fernando, Tourism Minister Prasanna Ranatunga and Namal Rajpaksha, Youth and Sports Minister and son of Prime Minister Mahinda Rajpaksha. One of the triggers, queues like these waiting for hours for diesel which has run out and ordering the shutdown of streetlights by the minister. Buses have ground to a halt, piled up at bus stands like these.
3 மணித்தியாலமா வெயிட் பண்ணிட்டோம். பஸ்ஸுகள் வந்து சில டீசல் பிரச்சனைகள் இருக்குது, போக்குவரத்து பிரச்சனைகள் இருக்குது. டீசல் தான் முக்கியத்துவம் கொடுத்தா முதல் டீசல் தான் பிரச்சனை. அப்போ அதில் டேர்ன்கள் வந்து மாறுபட்ட டேர்னாக இருக்கும்.
Bus owners say the government says the fuel is coming in 24 hours, but they're skeptical.
We are yesterday running 15% buses, altogether 20,000 buses in Sri Lanka. We have today altogether 20,000 buses altogether in Sri Lanka. We have to run. We are today running 10%. We can't believe the tomorrow. We have to stop the buses. We can't run the buses because we don't have the fuel. I talked with my minister to yesterday. He told me to yesterday Indian credit line, it will be coming 5th of April.
But the government has attempted to demonize the protesters, arresting 45 of them. Police spokesperson, 45 people arrested, 44 men and 1 woman, and 5 police officers injured, including an ASP, and being treated at hospitals following the protest in Mirihana Nugegodu last night. The situation in Sri Lanka is very grim. In fact, the country has run out of diesel and there is very short supply of petrol as well. What we are hearing from the sources is that 2 shipments that were supposed to arrive here in Sri Lanka, that has not gone as planned. And so people also tell us that they have lost their hopes on the government. In fact, the city has also, Colombo city has also plunged into darkness. We understand that the government has decided to, has ordered in fact, the shutdown of all the street lights. Now that's what we are looking at this moment, and this being also the retaliation coming in from the angry mob and the protesters, and that's exactly how we understand on ground they have been retaliating by protesting right outside President Gotabaya. In fact, Rajpaksha is concerned. In Colombo with camera person Govind Murthy, Srija for NDTV.
BJP has hit a century in the Rajya Sabha. It has become the first party with 100 MPs in the upper house since 1990. The 100 mark has been reached at the cost of the Congress in the northeast. Sanket Upadhyay has more.
As far as the BJP is concerned, this is a big 100 for the party, the first party to touch 100 MPs in the Rajya Sabha since 1990. And this has happened, though, by the way, an official notification from the Rajya Sabha is yet to happen in this case. But this has happened because of the 3 wins, 1 each in Assam, Tripura and Nagaland. Rajya Sabha elections, remember, were held recently in 13 seats and the BJP managed to reach this 100 mark. Now, just to tell you how the BJP has completed this journey, the BJP was 55 in 2014, now they are 100. So you can imagine how they have grown incrementally. The party is inching towards a simple majority in the upper house. Remember, the Rajya Sabha has 245 members and the halfway mark is 123. In 1990, if you recall, the Congress had 108 members and the BJP hopes that they'll be able to breach the 120 mark also, because polls are expected on 52 more seats in the Rajya Sabha in the states of Andhra Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Maharashtra, Rajasthan, Jharkhand, and also the recently won Uttar Pradesh.
Now, after the confrontation over the wearing of hijab by girl students in Karnataka, the latest flashpoint in the state seems to be halal meat. Right-wing pressure against this form of meat, traditionally used by Muslims, took a violent turn in Shivamogga district in the state. Some Bajrang Dal activists allegedly attacked a Muslim vendor in Bhadravati on Thursday for selling halal meat and stormed a restaurant as well. Delhi government has decided to end the penalty for not wearing masks in public places. The Delhi government has said that there will be no fines for not wearing a mask. Wearing masks is advised, but there will be no penalty anymore. There was earlier a fine of 500 rupees for not wearing a mask. That fine has now ended. This after COVID restrictions, including fines for not wearing masks, have been lifted in other states as well, including Maharashtra, West Bengal and Telangana.
Feel free to stop wearing a mask. State governments of Maharashtra, Telangana, Delhi and West Bengal have said. This after the centre last month revoked the Disaster Management Act provisions that imposed COVID restrictions, and COVID numbers have fallen significantly across the country. But doctors and citizens are both wary.
Is the discussion around mask now, currently, given the epidemic situation in the country, is evolving around, as there is no penalty or fine, as if we can do away with the mask. No, the advisory says very clearly that there are advantages of mask usage, and that is not only against COVID-19 or with regard to SARS-CoV-2 infection, but it also has a whole lot of other health benefits. So the discussion should be not just the penalty, but the wider health benefits that mask provides us with.
सर, मास्क लगाना हमारी खुद की सुरक्षा है. अभी हम बोल नहीं सकते कि कोविड पूरी तरीके से चला गया है.
अगर भीड़ में रहेगा तो मैं हो ही नहीं सकता हूँ कभी. नॉट नेसेसरी मतलब इस. और अगर भीड़ में नहीं रहे तो नहीं हुई ना.
At Mumbai's Jumbo COVID Center in Bandra Kurla complex, the Dean says caution has to continue.
Go through the order of state government. Along with this, there is an advisory. I think it is not a blanket permission, the government of Maharashtra has said that everyone should follow COVID appropriate behavior as and where the situation demand.
At its worst, this center was full of ICU patients, critical ICU patients. Today, the situation is very different, but the advice is let those masks remain, take it off only when you're absolutely sure you're in a safe environment. It's more of a social responsibility than the government enforcing it through fines and penal provisions.
Superintendent of Hyderabad's Gandhi Hospital that treated a record 89,000 COVID patients says both the pandemic and the virus are unpredictable. The mask provides protection against both.
Especially the persons with comorbid like hypertension, diabetes, COPD, bronchial asthma, kidney patients, pregnant ladies, elderly patients, those who are at risk, better to wear mask. Not only that, and other population also, when they are going to the hospitals or closed areas or into a large group of people, in those areas better to wear mask, even for the normal persons also.
Sir, you kada maniki mask పెట్టుకుంటే ఆయన కేసర్ మన చూపిస్తాడే ఏంది
ఇప్పుడు మీరు మాస్క్ పెట్టుకోలేగా మరి
ఎవరు నీ మాస్క్ పెట్టుకుని ఆల్రెడీ మాస్క్ ఎందుకు పెట్టుకున్నా
మరి కేసీఆర్ వద్దంటాడుగా
కేసీఆర్ వద్దంటే కేసీఆర్ మాకు ఏం రోగం వస్తే ఆయన చూపిస్తాడా మీ ఇష్టము ఏమని చేసుకోండి మీ ఇష్టం అంటాడు ఆయన అంతే ఇంకా
Soon Delhi will also remove the fine for not wearing a mask, but citizens are wary.
हम इससे तो सहमत नहीं हैं। क्या पता बीमारी फिर आ जाए, ये अपनी सेफ्टी के लिए है और हम सारी जनता को ये कहते हैं, रिक्वेस्ट करते हैं कि सब मास्क लगा के रखे। अब फिर जैसे बीमार आ जाए फिर लॉकडाउन लग जाएगा तो फिर ये हाल हो जाएंगे, इससे पहले संभल के चलो।
आप पहने रहेंगे मास्क या उतार देंगे अब क्योंकि चला नहीं हो
बीमारी चलेगी तो पहनना पड़ेगा हमें भी, अगर बीमारी हट जाएगी तो हम भी हटा देंगे मास्क.
Doctors say since transmission is very low, penalties may be lifted.
It's a move in the right direction because at this present moment, the number of cases, the number of hospitalizations are at its minimum after a long time. And it is time that we move to the back to our pre-COVID, nearly the pre-COVID states. Having said that, obviously the government needs to keep track, surveillance has to continue. Any point there is a surge in cases.
The Union Health Ministry has clarified that although the penalties on masking have been lifted, that does not mean guidelines on COVID appropriate behavior have changed. People are still advised to keep masks on and maintain social distancing.
With Meher Pandey in Delhi, Saurabh Gupta in Mumbai, Uma Sudhir in Hyderabad for NDTV.
And finally, there's Gudi Padwa gift for Mumbai. 2 new metro lines. It will be a huge relief for Mumbaikars from the 2nd of April. Saurabh Gupta reports.
Mumbai will now have 2 brand new metro lines to serve the city's most crowded and congested highway. Along the highway, these metro lines will run, and we are bringing you an exclusive glimpse of these lines here on NDTV. Mumbaikars will be experiencing this metro from RA to the Hanukarwadi, and this of course is a combination of 2 lines technically, but this is on the Western Express Highway. Some of the most crowded areas of Mumbai will be served by this metro that has been constructed by the MMRDA. Joining me now is MMRDA Commissioner SVR Srinivas. Sir, firstly, Mumbaikars have been waiting for this for a long time.
Yeah, first, in fact, the line is ready. It has been certified and authorized. And now we are just approaching, as you can come here. You can see the station. We are in Dindoshi station of Western Suburbs. And it's as you said, it's a 20-kilometer line. And we are expecting about the capacity is about the train capacity is about 2,500, including standing per trip, right? And we are going to run around 10 trains. 1 will be in reserve, and we are expecting this to be inaugurated by Honorable Chief Minister Sri Uddhavji Thackeray sir on Gudi Padwa Day. The drivers are here, but in future, maybe a few months down the line, we'll have driverless trains. So, and we would request Mumbaikars to take advantage of this, and it is a very seamless travel that experience it. Yeah.
All right, sir. And I think somebody at MMRDA described it as one small step for MMRDA, but a giant leap for public transport in Mumbai with the launch of these two metro lines. So how difficult has it been, sir?
Building it has a lot of challenges. Anything in Mumbai is, especially project of this scale and magnitude, it is not easy. So it is very complex. It has utility issues, encroachment issues, it has traffic issues. So sort of a lot of challenges, and in addition to the Black Swan event in the form of COVID, right? So and for that we made a catch-up plan in the last 8 months, and we ensured that the team ensured rather together ensured that the challenges are overcome and we are ready to go.
So one of the unique features is also these platform screen doors. So in case there's a crowd, nobody will fall off. The platform screen door will open only once the metro doors open. Sir, if you can tell us a little bit more about the features that we will experience on this train, and more importantly, what is the fare going to be? Everybody wants to know that, sir.
Yeah, the fare is very reasonable for the common man. So accordingly, we fix the fares with a minimum 10 rupees for the first 3 kilometers, then 20 rupees for the next 3 kilometers, like that. And this is a stretch of 20 kilometers, right? So it will go up to about 50 rupees. That is a very reasonable in the light of the road transport that is so expensive.
What is the footfall you're expecting on a daily level as soon as this opens? Because there's little portion which you say will take around 6 months more.
Yes. So the capacity is about 2,250 per every day. So at this per train, so we expect about 15 to 20,000 footfall every day. And it depends on how well the integration takes place with the local buses and other mode of transport. I am sure it will be fully occupied. We are very sure about it. And when we complete the phase 2, I am sure it will pick up much more. Yeah.
So a Gudi Padwa gift for Mumbaikars, the new metro thrown open. And if you want to avoid traffic like that on the Western Express Highway, as you can see, bumper to bumper traffic, and sail through over the traffic, then the metro is the mode of transport you should choose. On the newly built Mumbai metro lines, Saurabh Gupta with camera person Praveenji Rohit for NDTV.
And that's a wrap on this bulletin from the entire team. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.